So one of the things that we keep seeing over and over again is that children seem to learn stuff about their native language fairly quickly when you think about all the things that they're learning and the cognitive constraints that they have at the ages they're learning them. And why is this kind of speedy acquisition trajectory so surprising? And one of the reasons is that language has what's called a Zipfian distribution from the fellow named Zipf, who discovered this kind of power law distribution, another name for this general class of behavior. And it really looks like this. So if we're talking items on the x-axis and the frequency of those items on the y-axis, relatively few items are used very frequently. We can think about this in terms of words. If you actually do an analysis of the words in any large enough data sample, you'll find that like 50% of the words you hear are the same few words, and then the rest of the 50% are distributed among all the other words that are out there, right? So relatively few items are used very frequently, while most items occur very rarely, with many occurring only once, even in very large data samples. So this is true about language, and in fact at all levels of language, right? That you can think of. People have looked at this and they found that this seems to be true, right? Like this is just a fact about language. And it turns out it's a fact about even beyond language. Lots of natural systems have this property, this Zipfian distribution, this power law distribution. So, okay, this is a thing that's out there. Why does it make it hard? Well, the reason this is hard is summed up by nicely, I think, in Yang 2010, is to attain full linguistic competence, to learn everything that you have to learn about your language. The child learner has to overcome this distribution and draw generalizations about language on the basis of few and narrow types of linguistic expressions. Let's go back here, right? Few means you're mostly hearing this stuff, right? You're mostly hearing this stuff, and yet and then occasionally you hear this stuff, very, very rarely you hear that stuff, right? But you have to learn all of this stuff. You don't get a pass on the items you don't hear a lot, right? You have to learn about all of these things, even though you only mostly hear this kind of stuff. And that's hard. That's why the Zipfian distribution means that you end up with sort of few and narrow types of linguistic expressions. So this distribution of natural language data, again, a Zipfian distribution, sometimes a class of power law distribution, this kind of distribution makes the child's job hard, since you have to extract patterns and build a system despite not encountering most of the grammatical forms in the language very often, right? So that's, again, sort of the coolness of kids and what they're able to do with the data they get.